Carbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Carbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
All right, guys, welcome to the Pro Physique Code. You just missed an interesting conversation about sweating clothes, and two of the three of us have had MRSA, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember like how different times are. When I played football in high school, we would practice after school and we would just take like our pads off and we would hang our pads up. Then we'd take like the pants, like our pants we wear at practice and our jerseys and just hang them up. We'd wash them like once a week. It's literally the grossest thing ever looking back on it now. Because you didn't have people at school to wash them for you. A lot of times now they have like services at school.
Well,
to wash
in
them.
college, I actually got like a gig washing the baseball uniform. So after practice, I would have to gather it up in these giant bags and throw them in and wash them. And
well, college is a whole different story because we had a whole staff that like did all that, right? So we just would take it out. We'd have a locker. We have clean stuff every day. It was I
was Division II, buddy. We were the staff. I also had a part-time job. I was like the basketball scorekeeper. I used to find like ways to make like people listening are gonna laugh, but like I would make like $10 an hour. It was good money.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of money back then for sure, man.
So like, and I'm going to watch the basketball game anyway. It was at the campus. All I had to do was like tick the score or whatever I was doing that night. So.
I did that at wrestling meets in high school, but it was for volunteer hours. And I remember my job was always, they gave me this like long little, it looked like a pool noodle kind of thing, like a pool noodle, just a little shorter. And my job was that I had to throw it at the ref whenever the time was like, when there was like 10 seconds left, just to like notify them. And I'll be very honest, one time I threw it and my aim wasn't so great and it didn't hit him in the best area and the ref dropped to his knees. And that was very embarrassing. So yeah.
It's like an inefficient way to notify someone of the time.
Yeah.
No, it was weird.
I feel like they're playing a joke on you.
I don't know. I did what I had to do to get my service hours for National Society.
That question is, what were you doing community service hours for, Lexi? What trouble did you get yourself into?
Oh, well, I was National Honor Society president in high school, so that's what that was for. Yeah.
The rest of us did community service hours for other
National Honor
reasons.
Society. Not only were you in the National Honor Society, you were the president.
I was, and honestly, I can say this now, it was not a fun time. It was one of those things, like, I think I more so just did it because, it's going to look good on, my college applications and whatnot, but it was not a fun time at all.
Is that why all your clients love you? Because they see that on your coaching resume?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly why they hired me.
Well, here's the question. I got the question of the week.
Damn, I had one too based off that.
Well, I was going to say, what's the weirdest job you've ever had? Comment below.
I was going to say, what's the weirdest community service hours you've ever done? But that might call people out for some weird stuff. So let's stick to yours.
That might be limiting because, I don't know that our entire audience is going to have that. Although not everybody can be cool. I had to work at a golf course, laying sod all day. So below, what was the weirdest job you've had? I'll give you a couple of my different jobs. I worked in a plant which made polishing pads for glasses. Most tedious job ever. I literally sat at the end of the machine, took these pads, put them into a box. When it got to 100, I put them into a case. When the case got full, I put them into like a thing to ship. So all day I was just putting things in boxes. It was the most tedious job. I also worked at a car wash.
I think my two hardest jobs probably were laying pine straw. That job was horrible. Just laying pine straw, like on the landscaping crew.
Oh, landscaping. Okay, yeah.
Oh man, it's so hot, and you have to wear jeans for it. You have to. Or else it'll just cut you up. And then the other one was installing termite bait stations around apartment communities in the middle of summer. And you have to take an auger and like dig these holes and shove them down. It was horrible. All day.
What was your toughest job? Let me guess. You worked at a smoothie store.
Me?
Yeah.
I actually, no, I didn't, but I do remember I applied to work at Smoothie King in high school, but I didn't end up doing that. I would say my weirdest job, it wasn't that weird. It just kind of, I did have some weird encounters. I worked at GNC at the mall. Um, and so it was like you're the only one working the entire time. Like there's not anybody else with you. So I definitely had some weird encounters, especially working a mall store. And then it kind of like it wasn't my favorite job at the end because my boss would schedule me for like open to close, so 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And like when you're kind of on your own, and like it's a long time to be alone working.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the weird. Oh, maybe this is kind of weird or funny to those listening that know me. When I was like, I think I was very early on in college. This wasn't like a full-time gig, but I did kind of like demo for Rain Energy, and they have this like branded truck. And I would go and like pick it up at the storage unit, and I would drive that big truck around town and deliver drinks to like gyms and for events. So that was kind of a fun little venture. So driving that big truck around, but you know what you do what you
Impressive.
do to make a little extra money sometimes.
Yeah.
Every time I go to like the mall or like the like outlets around here, I always wonder like the people that work the little kiosk that try to start conversation with everyone that walks by, like if that would be one of the best jobs to have as a younger adult because you have to learn to try to communicate with
I,
strangers.
I found, and I've talked about this before, so maybe people will guess this. I had a job that I believe prepares you for life better than any other job. It teaches you to respect people, teaches you how to be social, you got to hustle. And a lot of the people that I notice that are successful in life, they all did this same job,
I know what it is.
serving,
Yep.
waiting tables. I did it for years at Chili's right after college. And man, just a great transition into like kind of all aspects. And you learn what it's like to be treated like crap, and you learn to treat people nice.
Do you get really annoyed if you get a really crappy, lazy server?
No, no, I also am very aware that like serving is very few people's true desire and goal. I'm more grateful when I get a good server. I'm like, damn, they're going to be
Yeah.
successful. Like you could, a good server, they'll get recruited by companies. They'll like if you go above and beyond serving, it shows. Like they
Yep.
look clean, they bring the food on time, they're very clear in their delivery to you. Um, they know how to be attentive without being overbearing. They just have that bubbliness to them.
Yep.
You know, that's like because it was hard for me at first, but I remember by the end I was like the number one server in my region. I would always have the most ups. Like they used to track metrics. Like it was called like um something about like the per person average PPA. So they would actually like say I had four people sit down, they would track how much what your per person average was for sales. And the way you get your sales up is you say, hey, you guys want an appetizer today? You guys have been to the restaurants where they do that. And oh yeah, our special today is this drink and we have this dessert. So you'd be surprised how just doing that can really increase sales. So you just learn how to talk to people,
Yeah.
Mhm.
how to read the room.
I feel like a job that really, I don't know what the right phrase is, like, I think it gave me thick skin is, and I feel like a lot of people have in our industry have done this, is working at like a gym, at like doing in-person training. Because I worked at Crunch in college as an in-person trainer. And like, for those of you that don't know, like you have to find all your own clients. Like they don't hand them to you. You don't get an hourly pay. Like you only make money with the sessions that you complete. And like when you start, it is so tough. And like I remember there were times I would go out to my car and just like cry in between sessions, mainly just because people are very rude, like and not respectful of your time. You know, people will schedule things and then they just don't show up. Or, you know, like and that was so hard for me. And I think, you know, that's even hard with coaching now when you get people to just ghost you. But like it was so hard with the in-person training, just how rude people were, or how, you know, they don't even give you like a heads up of like, hey, I'm not gonna make it to the session, and then you're there and it's just like wasted time. And it was tough for sure.
Well, and I think so. I'll tell this story before we get into our topic of which is going to be like 5 ways to ruin your post show experience. 5 things that you can do to ruin your post. But so a couple of years ago, I was following my favorite baseball player on Instagram. He played for the Tampa Rays. I'm not going to say his name. I don't want this getting out there. Anyway, so I follow him on Instagram. I'm always commenting on him, and he actually messages me one day, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to sit down and talk to you." And I was like, as a baseball fan, I was like, "Whoa, my favorite baseball player wants to meet me." Um, so him and his wife come to my gym, the gym we had in Lutz, and basically he wanted me to train his wife, and she didn't speak English at all, and he barely spoke English. So I had to use like an app, but I was like, "You're my favorite baseball player. I'll do anything." Right? So we set up a deal where she was going to come meet with me once a week to train, and then sometimes twice a week. Lexi, let me tell you, that is like I get it in the aspect of your life where your husband's a professional baseball player, you have a kid, all these things. I get that I'm not the most important person, but it was atrocious. Like we had a standing appointment for 11 at like Tuesday, maybe, right? The amount of times that I would get a text at 10:45 that said, "Hey, I can make it at 2 today." And I'd be like, "Well, that's not acceptable. I have booked 1 hour for you. That's what I have. It's not a floating time." Okay, well, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, and I just don't know what it is because I feel like so many people are like that, and I
Mhm.
I don't get it. Even, sometimes, thankfully, it doesn't happen super frequently, but I know we've all had it happen, like with what we do now, where you'll have like a consult call that's booked, and then the person just doesn't answer their phone, and you hear nothing from them. And like, hey, I get it, things come up, but like, give me a notice because like people don't realize how much you build your schedule
We
around
book
certain.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
You
We build our
do,
schedule around calls.
yeah, and like even when I was in person training, I will never forget. And I shut this down real quick, but I had this client who wanted 5 a.m. sessions, right? So like that had me waking up in the 3 a.m. hour. I would get to the gym and she would multiple times no show. And then you're there at 5 a.m. Like, what do you do? Like did I go out to my car and sleep until my next session? Like it was, yeah, it's tough. I feel like people just I don't get it because that's definitely not how I just don't get people that just don't respect and value your time like that.
This is my thing with people not getting on the consults when they schedule them. I have a lot of people like, oh, well, I it slipped my mind, I forgot about it. I'm like, how do you forget about it? You get like 9 notifications letting you know the call is here. Your call is in an hour. You get a million notifications about it. So as soon as I see that, I'm like, okay, this person is probably not either not plugged in and not paying attention, or they're trying to make themselves look good and fibbing. One of those two things. So, um, yeah, like, and that's the thing, our system reminds you constantly about it.
Yeah, definitely one the morning of, and then, slightly before. At which time you can always click the button and cancel.
Hmm.
Like I always appreciate when they cancel
Yeah.
if they're not going to be on the call. Great. Um, yeah. So I mean, that's one great thing about probably any job in the service industry. I've heard some people say the same thing about retail, like working in like stores where you're, you know, selling clothes or something. I've heard same. Anytime you deal with people, you just realize how good it feels to be treated nice and
Yeah.
respectfully. And so that's how you temper your behavior. I'll also say this. I became a much better tipper because like as a server, let's say the expected tip, let's say a 20% tip is like 20 bucks. If you leave 25, you made that server's entire day. It's the weirdest thing how just a little bit over, you just feel like, man, that's awesome. Like, so I will often over tip. Like, let's say I go out to Chili's today and have a lunch and it's like 12 bucks. Sometimes I'll tip 10 bucks
Yeah.
because I'm like, it was worth it to me. Like, you did awesome. And I know I was going to give them five anyway. $5 to that person is a huge deal. To me, it's nothing right now. Right. So it's like, sometimes I think like that, like, they weren't expecting a $10 tip on a guy sitting by himself having a hamburger.
Yeah.
True story. It's cheaper to eat at Chili's than it is at McDonald's.
Yes, it is.
Like that's not a lie. Go and I promise you. Like I'm not hating on McDonald's. They're decent, but obviously Chili's. Like it's just the weirdest thing right now with the food costs because of like the employees. They're making 20 bucks an hour.
Yeah.
Servers are still only making 3 bucks an hour.
I'll tell you the thing I heard about McDonald's though is that if you actually use their mobile app, everything is significantly cheaper. I heard that the other day. They're just trying to push everyone to use that damn mobile app,
Mm.
which I won't do.
Which maybe they're trying to push everybody to get like delivery because like so
You
you know
use
what
you use the app when you pull through the drive-through. He says, "Are you
we're
using
we're
the app
really
or
getting
cash?"
off topic right now,
Right?
but like the restaurants that don't require the hourly employees, their food costs haven't changed. Pizza is actually still cheap
Hmm.
because they just have a, a kitchen where they're delivering. But like restaurants like McDonald's, Wendy's, like Chick-fil-A, bro, you're getting near $20 for a value meal these days.
It's crazy.
Anyway, all right, so let's talk about fast food in terms of reverse dieting. How not to reverse diet properly. Um,
McDonald's every day.
or I mean, honestly, let's talk about the process of like how not to ruin your post-show experience, because I think there's some things we can do in prep to set us up for success. And I just had a great conversation with the client yesterday. She was not prepared for her season to end, and it ended, and she was doing some emotional eating because of that.
Hmm.
Literally, she was like filled with emotions she hadn't felt in a while because she was so driven since, we started this year. So, um, yeah, who wants to kick this one off?
Well, I know we always talk about this, about how, with all of our athletes, and I'll be like very honest, this doesn't always happen or can't always happen with every athlete, but we try our best to prepare an athlete to be ready early ahead of time. So that way we can walk food up going into the show. Because a lot of times, I feel like 9 times out of 10, when you have an athlete that's eating a lot of food, like a couple days out from the show and then leading up to show day, it's like after the show, they're like, all right, I'm not craving a ton of different things, right? So I think that's something we always talk about is reversing into the show. But there are rare scenarios where we may have to push a client a little bit harder into a show if we're lagging a bit with conditioning, and we may not always be able to have several days at least before the show to reverse into it. I know I had a discussion with a client last week who is she was about 2 weeks out, and she expressed to me, she's like, I'm just feeling really like, I just want to let you know, like, I'm not going off plan, but I'm hearing a lot of like food noise, and I'm starting to think a lot about what I'm going to eat post show. And something I told her is, I said, take a look at what you're eating, and like, are you enjoying what you eat, right? Because sometimes I feel like competitors, we put ourselves in this box at the end of prep. We're just eating food that we don't even really enjoy. And hey, I'm not saying prep is a time where you need to get all creative with your meals and whatnot, but even just like changing up the way you prepare your chicken, like air frying it instead of baking it, or adding a new seasoning, like sometimes just jazzing up your meals so that you enjoy them a little bit more can definitely kind of shut down to that food noise or that urge or those cravings that maybe you're dealing with, or you're worried about post show.
Yeah, I think one thing that is at least changed for me with the post-show eating is the more successful I became a competitor too, the less I wanted to screw up post-show. Like earlier on, I felt like it was such a long road to be able to get to where I needed to go that I just didn't quite care as much. And I do see correlation too. I see clients that find success super early, struggling post show. Like if they win their first show, they win their first overall, they just expect it's going to be easy like that, right? Kind of going forward. But a lot of athletes I see that, had to really work to get to where they are. Most of them don't really go off after the show. Granted, it's also because they've done it a few times too, right? So it's one of those things you get better at with practice because you know
I
what to
think,
expect.
yeah, the people that I think struggle post show, and when I think back to my post show struggles, I wouldn't even call it a struggle because I didn't care because I was like, the show's
Yeah.
over. Um, but I do remember thinking like a few months later, like, damn, would have been nice to stay leaner, right? Um, is the lack, like a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to do a bodybuilding show, like they're going to run a marathon. Like they think of it the same way. Like I
Yeah.
have this goal to build up to. Once it's over, it's over. Um, and so if you are going to go back to drinking out alcohol a couple days a week, eating out once a day, stop your cardio, and you just go lift heavy a couple days a week, you're going to put body fat back on real quick. Um, so it just comes down to like, and for some people, doing a show or a series of shows, that's all they wanted. That was their thing. But if you intend to compete again, you can really set yourself up for so much success with just a little bit of effort in the post-show time period.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to always tell people, like, condition your brain to thinking that, just because the show or the season is over, don't look at that as like, oh, okay, prep's over, and now a ton of newness is going to circulate your life. I try to tell people, like, try to look at the first 6 weeks post season or post show as still being prep, because I really feel like what I've observed is that if an athlete can really make it through those first, like, we'll say 4 to 6 weeks post show pretty locked in, like, After that, things start to stabilize a little bit more. Their hormones are a little bit more stabilized. Their mood is a bit more stabilized. They're not struggling with as much like food noise or thoughts around food. So I try to tell people, look at the first 4 to 6 weeks post show as still being prep. Like, look at it in that realm. And then I think that that can usually reap a lot more positivity moving forward.
And we talked about this before, like having a goal after your show, after your season is over too, right? I think having that goal makes it way easier to manage yourself post show rather than just saying, oh, we're just going to go ahead and build. We just need to put on muscle. And we really don't have a show idea of where we're going to go or anything else after that. So I think having a plan, and that kind of goes to what, we did a little bit talking before the show about some things. And one of them was like, don't ghost your coach post show, right? Or don't let go of your coach post show. Now,
Well, you're really ghosting your accountability.
yeah,
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
hurting your coach, you're hurting yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, and it is kind of hurtful or frustrating as a coach too when you have a client that's just you try to reach out and that they aren't responding, right? But I do think, why a lot of athletes, well, maybe not a lot, but why some athletes really struggle with wanting to check in post show is like you said, Paul, it's a level of accountability, right? And if you are not following your plan, one of the hardest things to do is sit down, submit a check-in, and be accountable towards, hey, I haven't been following
yep.
the plan. I've been messing up. Like, that's a very hard thing for people to do. It's hard. And that's why I think, like, just in general, I know we all have gone through it as clients before where it's like there's that week where maybe you don't want to check in, and it's honestly just because that you haven't been as good, as diligent as you could have been, and it's hard to sit down and be accountable towards that. But yeah, not ghosting your coach post show, and in at least having the funds, I would recommend to keep your coach for, I would say, at minimum like 8 weeks post show. I mean, ideally we'd love to work with you year round, but I know some people after a comp prep season, every once in a while will say, oh, will tell me, oh, I need to save a lot of money. After this season, I spent a lot of money on the show fees and I need to take a break. But I think it's so valuable if you can keep your coach for a minimum of like 8 weeks post show, just to really help you through that, those first 4 to 8 weeks that can be really tough.
They really, really can be. And another thing I'm going to bring up too with this is if your coach does not give you a reverse plan, bring it up to them and say, hey, coach, what do you think I should kind of do post show here with that? I have athletes bring it up to me, and typically it's just because I handle all of that stuff like the day of the show, right? So I kind of see where we're sitting day of the show. And if we get through prejudging, I'll say, hey, this is what we're going to go to finals. We'll probably plan on tomorrow being something like this, Monday being something like this. If you can check in Monday, let's go from there. That's typically how I
So
address it. But some
I
people,
I did it the same way, Evan, for years. But I'll tell you what I did recently, the last year or two that I find helps. I give them macros for Monday and cardio for Monday. Um, and I sent it to you guys. And comment if you guys are listening and you'd want a copy of this. I created a show day checklist
Mhm.
for like things to bring to the show, how to pump up. But a part of that, I also addressed how to handle Saturday night, Sunday, and Monday, right? Because those are questions that can really alter the experience. I typically, do you guys agree? Like Sunday, I just say, just enjoy yourself, but just don't go overboard and just try to get some steps in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I do.
it is client dependent, but most of the time, unless we are going into another peak week,
Yeah.
and that's a different case. But usually on Sunday, I will say, let's have just a smart, intuitive eating day, just mainly just to take a brain break from like tracking and all the numbers. But like, I had a client this past weekend, and she texted me Sunday morning, and she's like, "All right, I know myself, and I need some ranges. Otherwise, I think I'm going to go overboard." And like, I respect that as well. I think it just depends on the client, but most people intuitively eating on Sunday is going to be the case.
Yeah, and typically, like if we look at like our peak weeks of macros, right? Like typically, at least for me, like a Sunday, Monday, a Tuesday is going to be kind of the lower days of the peak week, and it works itself up starting on kind of like a Monday. So a lot of times, what I'll say is, hey, like we should enjoy yourself that night, right after the show, post show, and I say go out and enjoy yourself, have a good breakfast in the morning. Then let's try to after that maybe stay in the ballpark of like our carbs and fats for the macros on Monday rest of the day. And then on Tuesday or on Monday, we will go, a different kind of range on there. I said, but everything I'm saying is dependent on the fact that we're not going to go completely overboard with that as well. Um, And like as coaches, we don't know, right? Like it's just one of those things we don't know what you're gonna do. Like we can't control it, and nor do we want to control it, right? These are all personal choices to make. We can just help guide you with that. I've had some clients recently that have struggled to get in the gym and they have other priorities going on. And I'll say, hey, listen, if your goals have changed, that's completely fine. As your coach, my job is to get you to where your goals are. If your goals shift and they change, there's no issue with that, right? Like I'll help you get to whatever those goals are. But yeah, I like that idea, Paul, about giving the macros just prior, like beginning of the week. Say, hey, we'll go ahead and kind of plan on this. And of course, things can change,
Well,
right?
so what
But
I
giving them
found
an idea.
was I basically would go for a lot of people, I'd say, hey, your macros for Monday are the same as they were for Thursday or Wednesday. So I'll kind of base it on how peak week went.
Hmm.
And because Friday is usually a pretty big uptick from the rest of the week. So I don't usually give those as the starting macros, but Wednesday or Thursday
Yeah.
are usually enough food where they're going to feel satiated. The cardio will be low enough, and they have something to guide them. But
Mhm.
that way I put that in there, so they know even as they're setting up their peak week, oh, I need to have food for Monday.
Yeah.
The mindset, if you have food in the fridge, it's so much easier.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And this can kind of feed into, based off of like what we're talking about now, another thing that I want to address is, or another big, I think, mistake is, oh, okay, coach, I'm feeling a little burnt out. I think I just need to switch to, a little bit more
Don't
of
say,
intuitive
don't say
eating.
intuitive. Don't say intuitive, Lexi. Don't say
Yes,
it.
intuitive eating is what I'm going to say. And, we just talked about how, yes, for most athletes, we're going to give them that Sunday to just intuitively eat. Mainly, like, again, for me, it's more of just allowing the client to have a day where they don't have to log into MyFitnessPal or like track everything tediously, right? But we've all heard it before, certain people that are, they're like, oh, I'm a little burnt out, or, oh, I just feel like I need a little bit of a break. I'm going to just kind of try to intuitively eat. And, that can definitely be a very slippery slope post show, especially with, like, if you really break apart what is intuitively eating, like you're eating based off of your hunger cues. You're eating when you're hungry, you're stopping when you're full. And all competitors that have competed before know that your hunger cues are whack for a few weeks. If you truly
Yep.
got stage lean, no amount of food you eat is going to make you feel full, right? So, yeah, I know you love to hear that one, Paul.
Well, yeah,
And
because you're going to crave things that you never ordinarily crave. So if you're like, oh, my intuition says I should eat a large cheese pizza followed by a s'mores cookie followed by a glazed donut, like that's not intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is when you're in a healthy spot and you learn to listen to what your body is craving. Your body's
yeah,
craving everything at that point.
yeah, yeah,
It's
Yeah.
just it's the call of the I know what's next. When someone says, "Hey, I'm going to intuitively eat for a little bit," I get an email in 2 weeks. Hey, coach, I want to get this 10 pounds off. What do I got to do?
and the truth is, I think we all know too. Granted, it's not a foolproof rule with this, but we have an idea about who's going to handle post show good and who's not. Like I know probably within 90% of how things are
Mhm.
going to go based off that. And I also try to learn the personalities enough to where I say, hey, and I try to put some guardrails up for some other people. I know they're not going to listen to those guardrails no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So I try to give them a little bit uh, more guidelines on it. Some people you can be a little more, you know, I don't want to say intuitive, but a little more basic with it and give them a little more room to play than others. And a lot of what I'll do too is if I work for an athlete for a good amount of time, right? And I give them, say they're going on vacation, how do they handle vacation? Right? Did they come back super heavy or did they handle it really well with that? A lot of times that can correlate to how they're going to handle post show too.
Oh, yeah.
Or how do they handle free meals? Right? Like in an off season, do they handle free meals in a good spot? Do they come back 4 pounds heavier the next day every time?
Right. Yeah. And I had a discussion with a client of mine a couple weeks ago where she was telling me, she's like, my head keeps telling me that, like, oh, I deserve, to have all these little treats after I've been so good for the past, 3, 4 months. And I said, I need you to reframe that into no, what you deserve is to give your body a healthy reverse, right? Your body doesn't, you may think you deserve all the sweets because you haven't had them in, X amount of time, but what your body truly deserves is a good, healthy reverse diet. And she was like, oh, okay, I kind of like that reframe. But what you kind of said, Evan, about the vacation can lead us into another big mistake that I think some
Mhm.
people make is booking a vacation literally right after their show. I mean, I have seen very rare scenarios where people can be successful with this. I mean, some people are fine. Usually, those are more like I would say experienced athletes or people that just have a really good relationship with food. But it's not something I would recommend for pretty much anybody.
Yeah. And here's the truth too, and bodybuilding's not fair in this way. It's way easier for guys to kind of screw up in reverse than it is for girls to screw up in reverse. It is way easier. Like those guys, we get away with way more than most girls can. And we can have a few days to just kind of get back on plan and everything falls right back off and we look pretty much the same. I mean, it sucks, but that kind of the way the cookie crumbles some of the times with
Yeah.
this. Do you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think just body size and overall like metabolism are going to have a
Yeah.
huge impact on that.
And
Um,
I bring that in reference to like a vacation, right? I think because I
well,
have
that's a
guys that
perfect
sometimes
segue,
travel.
a perfect
Yeah.
segue of what not to do, and you guys know what I'm going to say. What do we not do after a show? Schedule a vacation.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's yeah, what we were just saying. Yeah, no, that's especially like a vacation that's all inclusive or
Yeah.
and I get it. Like logically, I get like somebody who's maybe just not super familiar with this sport, hasn't done a ton of research. Because I feel like everybody that listens to this podcast at this point probably knows, like, don't schedule a vacation post show. But I think logistically, like, why people do that is they think, oh, okay, I'm going to work really hard these 20 weeks leading up to the show, and then I'm going to treat myself to this vacation as like a reward, right? But it's like you're going from one extreme to another overnight, and like the unless you want to come back home, like 10 pounds up, it's a yeah, I would say you can schedule a vacation, but I would much rather a client schedule a vacation maybe like 4 or 5 weeks post show. And that can also kind of help to keep things nice and dialed in that initial first like 1 to 5, 1 to 4, 1 to 5 weeks like post show.
Mhm. Yeah. It's funny. We're talking about this and another random thing popped had because I've had a few clients that had this happen recently is a lot of clients, especially first time competitors, will schedule photo shoots on their peak week. um, which sounds like a great idea, but most of them want to do a tan before they want to do a pre-tan. They want to do the spray tan before they do it. And it could be like a day and a half before the show, right? Then they got to figure out how to get all that tan off of them before they go in and get it done. A lot of times the tan's not in a great spot after that. And then, yeah, they'll do something like go on a vacation after. But what I would recommend is kind of flip-flopping that. Do your photo shoot like a week post-show or 4 or 5 days post-show. That's going to force you to stay on plan and the tan's going to look better and everything's going to be in a better spot for that too. And I'm being a little bit kind of selfish with this because I've had a few girls schedule, you know, photo shoots the week of peak weekend. Their tans never look right, or like a week before. Their tans
Well,
never end
also,
up sitting
most people
right.
don't realize, but photo shoots sound fun, but
They're
3 or 4 hours with a photographer when you're in contest shape, you're used to being on a schedule. Like I would, I would not want to do that.
No, I feel like I'm one of the weird people like this. I don't know if you're listening and you agree with me, comment below. But like, I feel like so many girls in this industry love photo shoots. I've just always been somebody that like, I don't know, they're not to me, they're not fun. Like, and this is nothing against like photographers or by any means. I don't know. They're just to me, they're just like it's a job, it's work. They're not fun. I don't love doing them. That's why I never do them. I mean, they're fun to get the pictures, but like they're tiring. They're just they're not fun for me.
No, they're horrible, but you
Oh,
get a bunch of cool pictures after when you're in good shape. And I think that's the value in that is you all that stuff you can look back on. I can't tell you how many times I've been photo shoots or been asked to do photo shoots leading into shows, and that's the last thing I want to even think
yeah,
about doing. But
yeah.
I'm always like, if I ever bear down to, I'm like, yeah, man, like I'm happy I did it looking back.
Right. No, I always feel that same way too, but I've just had photographers reach out, before like, oh, I'd love to shoot. I'm just like, I don't really love to shoot. It's not fun, but
Right.
again, the pictures are fun to get afterwards. But here's the thing too. Like, I don't know. I know a lot of people have told me this before. It's like sometimes I think there's value in scheduling the photo shoot. Yes, a couple weeks post show because I feel like most people actually like their physique a little bit better when they're a couple pounds up from their stage weight and when their muscles are a little bit fuller. Because like, especially females, and I'm sure guys too, it's like when you're truly peeled for stage, like you just kind of feel a little small and maybe not your best. I feel like a lot of people actually feel their best body image wise, a couple pounds up from their stage weight.
Mhm. Absolutely agree with that. 100%. I mean, most girls don't want to look like strided and grainy and veiny, right? Like most girls do not want to look like that. There's some that do. It's a super impressive look, right? But most girls want just a few pounds above that to where all the muscles are popping, everything's full. And that can easily be achieved post show. And look, for all the people that say, I wish I looked like this on stage, trust me, no, you do not. Wish you look like that on stage. That I think is the biggest fallacy. And I really wish someone would do a social experiment like that to where they could do like a show on a Saturday night and then go out and eat a big meal like they think they're going to look so good and go compete again on Saturday and see kind of what happens with that. And I'm not talking about like a small refeed like a burger and fry. I'm talking about people that go really overboard, right? And I think it's more guys than girls that fall into this trap of things. But you don't you look good, but photo shoot shape is different than contest shape. It's different.
Yeah, it's always interesting, like to see the difference in a physique and how it looks when it's off stage versus when you have the tan, the glaze, and you're under those stage lights, right? Like it's just always very interesting to see the difference because the stage lights, the glaze, like it has a different effect. Like it just adds fullness and adds size to the physique. That's why I feel like you almost want to feel a little too small or a little too lean off stage because usually that equates to probably hitting the mark perfectly on stage.
I can always tell when you're at a bodybuilding show, you can tell who's going to look good before they take their shirt off. They got their jaws striated, their face looks sunken in. If they're not wearing sleeves, you can see like the deep separation in the shoulders. It's just a look that under lights, yeah, you look sick off the stage. You look like something's wrong with you. But yeah, when you get your tan and under those lights, you just look like you're a different human being. I mean, that's why like the Olympia is so exciting because a lot of those guys reach that level where they all look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their face are so sunken in and gone. It's like you crawled out of a casket. Like it's not good.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well, another thing kind of to feed it off of what we were discussing is, in my personal opinion, I would not recommend hoarding post-show treats. I don't think any of us would. I mean, I'm
I
not
don't know anybody that does that anymore though, Lexi. Like it used to be
I
so.
know. I know. Well, Evan's laughing, yes. But like what I'm talking about is like,
Not
yeah,
me. I don't do it.
don't, and like there's so many awesome like cookie companies out there nowadays. And like I love that for them, and I love, wanting to support those companies, but like don't order 20 different cookies and put them in your freezer or get all the limited edition snacks at the grocery store and put them in your pantry for post show because like think about it this way. Post show, maybe, okay, if you have 20 cookies, maybe you're gonna have two. Okay. But then what's gonna happen with those other 18 that are sitting in your freezer staring at you over the next week, 2 weeks? Like you're gonna probably want to eat them and it's gonna be a very slippery slope. So maybe have like one treat or two max, but don't hoard a ton of shit.
I hate to break it to everyone. Those cookies that people see on TikTok and Instagram where everyone's rating and losing their minds over, they're not that good. Trust me. They're not
Well,
nearly
the,
as
the
good as people
problem
make them
is
think they're out to be.
when your show is over, broccoli is good. Like almonds, cashews are delicious. So like foods that you normally just think are okay or so yeah, those kind of treats. I sometimes wonder also if it's just for the social media aspect, like people like
A lot
want
of
to
it.
show that side of it because I've literally seen people like take a bite of it and just throw it away.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah, the cookies seem to be all the rage nowadays. I mean, I remember at North Americans, there was a booth outside of the venue, like selling cookies, right? Like they're always the cookie vendors are always at shows nowadays too.
Mhm.
Well, they
Yeah.
sell them out. I mean, they'll sell stuff out like that. Um, so listen, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like if you want to
Oh,
use that as your, you know, tell me if you guys have seen this before. I forget what show I was at. I want to say it was Tampa Pro, but I could be wrong. Someone ordered a pizza to come backstage after finals.
that
They
is.
literally had it delivered to the hotel and had it backstage. I was like, this is hilarious.
Well, I
Well,
also have noticed some shows, actually, Olympia Pro is one of them.
yeah.
Usually they have like that little treat bar backstage with, I
Hmm.
think, pizza and then like brownies and cookies. But I'll just never forget a couple years ago when I did that show, Bikini goes on last. And it was so sad because
There's
like
never anything.
it was like 11 p.m. too, and all the guys had just raided the treat bar. There were little crumbs left. So like got like maybe a little crumb of a brownie, but that's it. It was so sad.
The good news is, Lexi, it's gone for all the embassy people because the pros come on, and trust me,
True.
there's nothing left by the time I got on stage when I was amateur temp pro either. Trust me, they're all gone way before that.
That's true.
But I
Yeah.
remember at the Sarasota show, when I went of like 2 years ago, they had the same thing, but they actually brought it back to like the green room. So everyone's waiting to go on for finals, and they have like donuts and cookies and pizzas just backstage, and people are just like shoving this stuff in their mouth. I'm like, I don't think this is probably the best message to be sending out. At least Tim's are cut up into like little tiny bites, right?
Yeah, we had
Like
we
sized
when
ones.
I ran the show, the OCB Tampa show, I would have there was a guy named Matt in Tampa who makes macro friendly pizzas. So he would donate a bunch of pizzas, and the competitors always loved it too. But we always made it a concerted effort that everybody got stuff. It wasn't like a free for all. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my little, like, I have a little rule that I will share with my clients post show, especially if they're ones that are worried about their ability to like control themselves. Cause I'm very grateful. I've had some athletes over the past several months, reach out to me well before their show day, just saying, hey, coach, I am a little worried about like my control post show. Can we really talk about it beforehand? Make sure we have a good plan in place. And like, I love that. But something that I'll tell my clients is immediately post show, and this may sound kind of weird, but like have something, like have a protein source readily available first. And I'm not talking like a protein bar. I'm talking
Mhm.
like maybe a protein shake or even like a serving of chicken or egg whites or beef or whatever. But if you can have like 4 to 5 ounces of a lean protein immediately getting off stage, it's going to kind of satiate you. It's not going to make you overly full, but it's just going to kind of take the edge off. And I just find that if you can do that, you're going to be a lot more within control over what you have next, right? Whereas if you go straight off stage, you're starving and you just go straight towards all the hyper palatable cookies and cake, it's going to probably be different than if you have some protein first and then go for that stuff afterwards.
Well, I
Yeah.
typically don't see the issue because I can't remember an instance where I haven't fed somebody into a show in a long time. But if you're eating into the show, it completely changes the show day and post show experience where you're not just waiting all day to eat. I often have competitors tell me like, I don't really want to go out to eat, coach. Do I have to? I'm like, no, you can go home if you want. Um, sometimes they'll do it out of like, obligation to their friends and family that are there with them. But yeah, I think if you're eating a lot of food going into the show, sometimes you just want to go home and rinse that protein off and sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the protein bars, Lexi, because I've fallen victim to that. And the issue is too, you get the show bags and they put a bunch of stuff in there, right? And there's people giving
Yeah.
out samples of it. I'd rather have people eat a Snickers or a candy bar or cookies rather than eat 3 or 4 protein bars. Those are not going to sit on your stomach well. Not that the other stuff will either.
Yeah, I was gonna
Not that
say
it
it.
will either.
I guess it depends what protein bar we're talking. If we're talking 3 Quest bars, like that fiber and that sugar alcohol is gonna wreck your gut. But I also feel like if you haven't had candy in a while, like that's gonna also wreck your gut. So I don't know. I guess it's depending on the type of person you are.
Yeah, I'd rather have my like real cookies with real like ingredients in it than just a bunch of protein bar.
Yeah.
I just never see protein bars digest well,
Well, and
especially
there's
when
also,
digestion's not been great anyways. And then you start tossing all that stuff in with a bunch of other food. Look, because I've tried it. Trust me, I'm speaking from pure experience here. I've done it all. Trust me.
well, and that's part of the, also sometimes people can panic with the post-show weight gain. I mean, if you go too big for too many days, you can put on body fat, but you can also literally just put on a ton of water weight from
Mhm.
sodium and digestive distress and foods you haven't eaten causing you problems. That will literally come off in a matter of 48 hours if you just go back to your normal prep foods and drink plenty of water. So sometimes don't let that scale freak you out too much. It's just your body is a sponge and it's going to absorb things when you kind of overeat a little bit.
And
Yeah.
Paul, that's a great point too. Talking about, I think probably every client I've ever had that overeats pretty significant amount, they're like, oh, I put on a good amount of water weight. I'm like, well, we'll see within 48 hours if it's water weight. Like, because it
Right.
comes back off of you. If you eat and it's up and it stays up for 5 to 6 days, it ain't water weight, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a judge tell one of my clients, like, "Oh yeah, you just need to lose some water from the back of your legs." I'm like, "No,
That's
you need to
funny.
lose 5 to 7 pounds of body fat."
Yeah.
Oh, well, why did they tell me that? I go, well, because they don't understand physiology. They're just judging the body, and to them, your legs are blurry, so they think it's water. So,
Yeah, and I think another thing that we don't oftentimes think about, just planning for post show is, especially if you're very vocal about your prep and your friends know, your family knows, your coworkers know, I think it's important to have that conversation before your show that, like, to those people that just because the show is over doesn't mean you're going to go back to quote unquote normalcy overnight. Like, I've had people tell me before, oh, my family wants to take me out to eat this week, to celebrate, or my coworkers want to like order in lunch. And so I think it's important to put the expectation out there before the show happens to those people, like that, it's not like you're just going to be able to go back to quote unquote, again, normalcy immediately post show. Cause that can be really hard for some people if that first week post show, everybody and their sister is wanting to like take you out to eat or celebrate or, give you all these treats. Like that can be really hard.
Yeah.
normal should be your normal, not their
Mhm.
normal.
Exactly.
And look, you can learn to do balance post show. First show, it's tough, but you can learn to do it the further you go in to where, let's say you go to work and they have some lunch and they bring you for lunch and stuff like that, then you can have some bites of stuff and it's not going to kill you. It's not, but you can't have 500 calories of that stuff, then eat all your normal food on top of that. Now, that's where most people end up having issues with it is they want that, but they don't want to pull back on the other side of it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know we covered all the points I had kind of listed out. Any other things you guys
I
feel?
mean, the thing we haven't covered is I think the most important thing to determine post-show success, and that is the way in which you handle prep.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
the key to that is the rate of fat loss. I just had a consult with a young lady that lost 16 kilos in 20 weeks, which that's 35 pounds.
That's a lot.
Whew, wow.
Um, yeah, and she's like, Coach, I looked great, I felt great, blah blah blah, but I've put it all back on and some, and my coach wants me to go back on the diet I was on before, and of course, what kind of diet it was, what kind of cardio it was. And I go, well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is like if you go back on that of diet, you'll probably lose some of the weight. I go, the problem is last time, look what it led you to, and you're just going to compound that issue. You've got to resolve the issues, the eating disorder behaviors, the ultra low calories, and your relationship with, food and those things before you can have a successful, sustainable fat loss. So understand that, at least in the modern context, the way I understand contest prep coaching, it's not just about getting your athlete on stage and getting them a win. It's guiding them in such a fashion that they come out of prep in a healthy place mentally and physically to handle that.
I don't know why that topic like slipped my mind, but I'm so glad you brought that up, Paul, because I feel like that is sometimes one of the hardest parts about coaching in a contest prep is you do get those athletes that are like, all right, coach, like I want to push harder. I want to push harder. And like they still have body fat to lose, but and it's not that as a coach, we're not going to push them hard, but we also have to be thinking about setting that client up for success post show, right? Like Evan, you've said it before, but oftentimes the people that are like, I'll do whatever it takes, right? Like I get that where that mindset comes from, but a lot of times, they will do whatever it takes and then it backfires on them, right? And sometimes as competitors, when you're deep into prep, you don't really even have the logic at that point to even think about like setting yourself up for, a good post show. So yeah, how you approach prep is definitely going to determine if you're successful post show or not. And I think that's also why I feel so strongly about loving the macros approach for prep, not IIFYM and eating whatever they want just to fit their macros, but just psychologically when a client can choose what they're eating as opposed to be told all throughout prep, here's your meal plan, you can't deviate from it. Most of the time sets them up for such a good post show in terms of just their cravings, their control around food. So yeah, how you approach prep is huge.
Yeah, and what's interesting is some of like the really, I won't say their names, but really big open bodybuilding coaches now, a lot of times what they'll do is they give a macro kind of based approach too. They'll say, hey, they're this amount of rice or equivalent carbs, and they'll say, and pick a lean protein source 90% or leaner. And they're giving people options now on things rather than saying it has to be this, 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 this,
Yeah.
this. along with it. And here's the truth too, and we talk a lot about like if bodybuilding is right for you, right? And if it's something that's good for you. I think it's good for most people. I think people can benefit from it. But there's some people that just no matter what we do, and I know we've all had them to get them in stage shape, you have to press them very hard. Their food has to go really low and their cardio has to go really high. And there's some people that can handle that part of it and be able to handle themselves post show. And there's other people that can't. And again, I think that kind of creates a cycle with it. But I've had clients for years that have handled their post show very, very well. We get their food up in a good spot. It doesn't matter what we do. You have to press them very hard going into a show to get that last little bit of body fat off. Some people, you don't have to do that too. You don't. Yes, you do not have to go anywhere near that. Some people like that, right? No matter how you try to structure it, no matter how good they are, and I know these people are locked in too. Like I know they are. And again, that's like, is this for you, right? Because some people, if you have to go to that extreme level to get to where you want to go, is it healthy for you mentally to be able to handle that post show? And that's a conversation you have to have honest with yourself with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's clients that I've told like, hey, this is not the prep for us. And you just go, listen, I'm not willing to have you do more cardio and eat less calories to lose a quarter of a pound a week.
Yep.
It's just your body is telling us a story here. And this is where sometimes you can get away with, taking a recovery week or a couple of recovery days and you'll see some progress. But you can't just be a hammer as a coach. You've got to have other tools in the toolbox to allow you to go, okay, I just upped the cardio. I just made sure your steps were stable. Your sleep is good. I dropped the calories. You haven't made any progress. We've got to try something different. We can't just keep going down the same path. And sometimes that's the conversation to have too. And I've had clients leave because of it and say, you know what, coach, you don't believe in me. And I'm like, well, no, it's not that I don't believe in you. I trust my data and my experience as a coach that I've seen this before. I'm not putting you in this position,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
sometimes to be right, you got to be willing to stand, and if a client says, coach, okay, I want to do it, but I still want you to guide me. I'm like, okay, I've said my piece. You know how I feel.
Yeah.
And I've even had athletes tell me like, I'm going to get on stage at less than my best, but I just want to do the show. Okay. As long as you understand, we're not
Yes.
setting the expectation to go in. Well, Jessica McLaughlin was a great example this year. She turned pro at North Americans. Last year, she won like 2 or 3 overalls, but I said, we're not lean enough for Ben Weider. Her body was just fighting us, fighting, fighting, fighting. She's in the military. I mean, we were doing 3 hours of rucking. She wasn't losing body fat. She still wanted to do Ben Weider. I said, okay, we'll do it. Alexandria got the pro card. She didn't. She got like third and fourth in her class. No big deal. But she came out of that show intentionally. We reversed all the way until prep for North Americans, and she won her class at North Americans, like 10 pounds leaner. Had she come out of Ben Weider with the mindset of like, oh, I didn't turn pro, I hate this. She literally never skipped a beat. She did the show and just kept right on going with a reverse. And so I was able to get her 10 pounds leaner within 8 months with what, she described as like not even feeling like she was in prep because of the first prep being so hard and kind of taking care of her. But had I told her like, yeah, we're going to the show to win and she doesn't win, it might wreck her psyche a little bit. Right. Sometimes it's on the coach to set those expectations. Even if it's a hard conversation, you got to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, it isn't. There'll be times too, I'll try with athletes that really want to press things and I'll say, okay, cool. We're going to press this. And I may even suggest like, we're going to press this for 3 days. Then we're going to pull back. We're going to see how your body responds to it. And we'll see if pressing this hard is going to do something. If it
Right.
doesn't, then we're not going to keep going down that road. Right. We're not going to keep doing it. And I think when you bring it up in that manner too, it helps them kind of stay a little bit more locked in maybe than they had been in along with that and taking a few more things to account, knowing like, okay, if this doesn't work, this is kind of our last straw with this. Right. And I've seen that be beneficial for some and I've seen it not work for others. Right. And you have to get to that point where like, okay, is this going to benefit us? Is this good?
I
Yeah.
always say like people can endure almost anything if they're making progress.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like
It's when you don't make
if they're
progress.
like, coach, I don't care if I'm doing, 2.5 hours of cardio and 50 carbs. I dropped 2 pounds this week. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Like, but likewise, if you put somebody on a plan like that and nothing happens or they gain weight because they're inflamed, that's when you go,
Not the game.
this is not going to, this is not a situation where more is better.
Yeah.
Right.
Because more is not going to create a difference. It's going to just
Right.
lead you on a worse path.
Well, and we haven't talked about diet breaks. I think the one of the first correlations I made with diet breaks was the amount of clients that I've had have successful post shows and the amount of clients that I've had do at least one or more diet breaks in prep, 100% correlation.
Yeah. Diet breaks, refeeds for sure.
Well, I've always included refeeds since my first day of coaching because my first coach gave me refeeds, right? So that's something that at least when the going gets tough, the refeeds come in. But diet breaks where you take a full week of recovery and prep, that's something that I think I was one of the first people to do. I know I'm one of the first people to document it on the internet. Um, that was a very difficult conversation to have with an athlete to say, hey, we're in the middle of a prep. We're going to take a recovery week. And I fought this person and she dropped 2 pounds that week.
Wow.
So I got a little buy-in.
Isn't it, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that kind of similar if we want to look at from like a research standpoint? Didn't the Matador study do something like very similar to?
It's literally based on the Matador study.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, that's what I thought.
The Matador study is an acronym for metabolic adaptation through advanced, I forget what it is, but it's basically the study design was they took two groups of people. One group dieted for 16 weeks straight. They put them in a caloric deficit. If they stalled, they adjusted it. But for 16 weeks, they were in a deficit, no breaks. The other group was in a deficit for 2-week intervals and then 2 weeks at maintenance. The difference here was that their maintenance calories were adjusted throughout. So their maintenance calories in the first diet break were not the same at the end, right? They adjusted them based on their actual maintenance, which is where the coaching comes in. So the group, obviously, that dieted for 16 weeks straight, they lost a lot of body fat. They had great results. The group that dieted for what ended up being 30 weeks because they had to add those extra 2 weeks. So there's the problem. We don't all have 30 weeks to do a show, right? But the group that did the 30 weeks, they lost more body fat. They kept more lean body mass. And a year after follow-up, they had stayed leaner, right? So while the results were kind of similar, at least initially, the group that was taking the breaks got great results. Now, I'm not going to prep somebody and say, hey, 2 weeks of grinding, 2 weeks of recovery, 2 weeks of grind. No, we would never get to stage.
Yeah.
But what I have found is the leaner someone is, the better they respond to a diet break.
Of course, because they need it.
They need it. And so you're turning things on that have turned off. You're turning on digestion. You're turning on hormones. You're turning on recovery. You're getting better sleep. You're seeing yourself visually looking better. You're turning on like non-exercise activity that kind of died out. The mood picks up. It's like, so for even though you're adding maybe a couple hundred calories more, sometimes there's more metabolic benefit where they actually will drop weight, drop inflammation, and then you're really set up for that next push. I mean, and to the point, like when I have somebody like Lana right now, who's a couple weeks out for the Olympia, we're murdering her for 2, 3, 4 days at a time. And when she hits a wall, 2, 3, 4 days of recovery. She just hit her all-time lowest waist measurement and weight this week. And so I've got 2 weeks to kind of dial her in like that. But it just comes down to getting her lean enough. She's 2 or 3 pounds leaner than she was for Janet's show. So she's going to look great at the Olympia. Her tie-ins are freaking sharp. But it takes pushing hard and a little bit of recovery to get there.
Yeah.
And what people understand, it takes that pushing hard. It takes pushing hard to need it.
Yeah. Yep. 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 That's the hard part though. Competitors, especially women, I feel like they would rather do way too much and push way too hard.
Yeah.
Men kind of don't. Hold on a second. I think I got a new laptop. Hold on a second. You guys keep talking.
I absolutely agree with him on the men part of it. The guys that try to find ways to get around things and get out of things is about tenfold what most females do.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this sport just naturally really attracts a lot of like type A females, and like not for nothing, it can be a very good thing in prep to be type A, to be very like structured and regimented. But yeah, I feel like a lot of females most of the time, I mean, I'll say I am one of them. What do we have, Paul? Paul has a package.
It's a new laptop.
New
Oh,
lap-
oh, that's the new laptop. Ah, I got
This is how you know you're getting old. When you say things like, "No, I just got this laptop," and you look and it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
That's so
Dude,
funny.
what? Or
Uh,
I thought I
I
just
just
got
bought
this,
these
and this
shorts
is
and
3
they're
years old.
13 years old.
Yep.
That's so funny. Well, do you guys have any other points on this topic? I feel like we hit the major ones. And I know this episode will be coming out right after the Olympia. So I don't know if we'll probably end up doing, I would assume, an episode where we maybe kind of recap or give our thoughts on the Olympia. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. Listen, I think going there and just walking the expo, seeing the state of the sport,
Yeah.
it helps because it's felt different this year. And we've talked about it on the podcast. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if the sport of bodybuilding is just with all the political turmoil and the economic turmoil, it just doesn't seem at people's forefront, or if it's my perspective. But, we've talked about the hype around the Olympia this year. Outside of open bodybuilding, classics got a little bit of excitement because you've got everybody fighting for the first title post Bumstead, but I don't know that reaches the same level. No Bumstead. You lost two of the greatest champions in Olympia history. Bumstead's gone. Sid's gone.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know.
God forbid Lauralee retires. We won't know what to do.
I know. I know. I'll be curious.
Jen Dory's not competing. Like
I'll be curious to go to. I want to try to go to the Meet the Olympians on Thursday. Not to like necessarily meet people for the first time, but just to talk to some of the athletes. I don't know, just get their thoughts around maybe why it's been so quiet. Because maybe some people are just
And I
deciding.
want to see how the attendance is.
Yeah,
I want to see how many athletes are at the Amateur Olympia,
yeah.
because it's a little bit scary to me that there was 108 girls in bikini at North Americans. That's a show that typically has 250 competitors in bikini. So like,
That's
I'm
okay.
wondering what the bikini is going to look like there and what the fit model is going to look like there.
Be very interesting. We shall see. But yeah, we'll do comment below if you want to see us do a recap or a reflection of the Olympia. We'll probably do it anyways. But
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I wish I could say comment below if you'll be at the Olympia, but this'll be out after.
Well, I think we'll also, don't forget, Lexi, we got a big event this weekend,
Oh,
which
no, I'm not forgetting.
not big as far as numbers. Like, it's not like we have 50 people coming, but it's going to be a big and full of impact. And I think as online coaches who typically work digitally, when you get to see people in person, it's just a great experience.
It's so fun. I love it. I love meeting clients in person and being like, oh, you're just as amazing, if not more amazing in person. And hopefully they think the same thing, other way around. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I'm really excited for our San Diego event. Yeah, it's ready to get out there.
I can't wait. We're gonna have a blast.
Yep. So we'll do a full recap from the Olympia and from the San Diego event.
I'll probably also, if anybody wants like a little insider glimpse into it, I'll probably vlog a little bit at the San Diego event too. I don't know
You
if I'll,
always do that. You always
yeah,
do.
sometimes I go back and forth between like, do I want to do a vlog or on it or no, but I'll probably get some clips. So yeah.
Get some clips. All right, guys.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.